He's quite simply our favorite to talk to when it comes to hoops. He's one of the best in the business, no matter the sport. The senior NBA writer for ESPN and the host of Brian Windhorst and the Hoop Collective podcast. Joining me here on the Mercedes-Benz Fans phone line is Brian Windhorst. How are you, Brian?
I'm good, Rich. How are you?
Hanging in there. So let's just jump right into it. The Los Angeles Lakers have been eliminated from playoff contention, not even the play-in tournament. We are, as the crow flies, literally three blocks away from the Lakers facility here in El Segundo, California. What do you think is happening in that building today?
Boy, there's probably a whole lot of whiteboards, and there's probably a whole lot of spreadsheets. But if I were Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss, I would have pulled out my 2020 championship ring and just looked at it and admired it, because that's what you're hanging on to right now. Because I just don't see a short-term way forward for them. Even if, and the one thing that's always sustained the Lakers, although they've had dry spells, is that there's always been a player who said, I want to be a Laker. Even if that were to happen, last year, Westbrook who said that. I don't even think they functionally could get a player like that right now. So I just think they're probably going to have to take their medicine and spin their wheels for a year. I don't see another way to do it.
Well, but number 6 doesn't have years to spare, right?
I know that. So to me, the big thing is, how is LeBron going to approach this summer? So he has an option. The Lakers are going to offer it. I mean, I shouldn't maybe make any assumptions, but on August 4th, the Lakers are allowed to offer him a contract extension. He has 1 year left. He's obviously still playing great basketball. He's years in him. I don't know if he's got 4 more years, but he's got a couple more years, I would think, at least. It would make sense if the Lakers would want to extend his contract. Living in Los Angeles, he loves being a Laker. He has to hate the predicament the team is in. So does he extend his contract, Rich? Does he put a vote of confidence in the team that they'll, get it corrected? Does he chase the Kareem record next year, see if they can put together a team that could maybe get into the back of the playoffs? I mean, right now they've got 31 wins, Rich. I don't know if they're going to give another win. Let's just give them one more win. That means they're going to be a 50-loss team. Even if they win 12 more games next year, like everybody's like, well, AD has been hurt. When AD, Westbrook, and LeBron played together, they played in 21 games together. They were 11-10. If they were 8-3, I could see, well, if they're healthy, that's fine. They were 11-10. They were average. And, but let's just give them 13 more wins next year. I mean, that's a gift to me, but let's just give it to them. Let's say next year they win 44, 45 games. That's a play-in position right now. If you had 45 wins this season in the West, you're in the play-in. So I don't know. In the past, LeBron would leave a situation like this. He left Cleveland when they were in this predicament the first time. He left Miami when they were in a better position, still in a predicament in 2014, then left Cleveland when they were in this predicament in 2018. Normally, this is when the clock would strike and the hourglass would go up and he would move, but I don't think he wants to, so we'll see.
I guess let's just put a fine point on it. Like, is there no way out? I mean, what? Give me, like, I know there's whiteboards and everything like that, but, Jeannie's sitting there and Pelinka's sitting there, the Rambi are all sitting there. LeBron doesn't have ideas to try and forward here. I mean, there's just no way out of this thing, is what you seem to be saying right here.
Yeah, and that's why the Westbrook trade is so penal. It doesn't just hurt because it didn't work. It hurts, Rich, because it kind of locked them into this. They don't have maneuverability now. So LeBron's first year in L.A., they missed the playoffs. The signings that they had didn't work. The team wasn't a good mix. But they had young players at the time. They had draft picks. They walked away from his first year in L.A. They ended up with the number 4 pick and Brandon Ingram, and they turned that into Anthony Davis. and they had cap space. They don't have any of that now. They don't have young players to trade. They don't have draft picks really to trade at any time. They don't have draft picks to use. And Westbrook's value is negative. There's no market for him. So I really think that their move is to spin the wheels and eat the sandwich, so to speak, and hope that you can improve what you've got so you can be competitive, and then try again in 23, 24. I mean, I hate to say it, but I just don't see another way.
So is Vogel definitely out? Is Frank Vogel definitely out? That's the one, I guess, for sure move that's going to be made?
I think that's going to happen, but I don't think that's I don't think Frank put his best foot forward this year, but I don't think that there's a coach that's going to be able to change the limitations that Westbrook has at this point in his career playing alongside those two guys.
So who would take the job? I mean, it's still the Lakers, right? So what do you think? And it's still LeBron playing at an MVP level, So what do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I wonder how much they're going to pay, because the reason that they have Frank Vogel, who won him a championship, again, he'll walk away and hold the ring. But the reason that they have Frank Vogel and not Tyronn Lue is because they didn't want to meet the price. So if they're going to go out and try to hire the best coach on the market, whoever that may be, and there's some coaches out there who may be pretty high profile, who may be out of their jobs, I mean, are they going to pay? When they went to extend Frank Vogel, they gave him 1 year. Are they going to hire a coach that they believe it can make a difference when I'm not sure the coach can make a difference in the short term? So that's the first question I had is, are they going to make sure that every candidate is interested in them? Because, last time around, Monty Williams and Ty Lue said no for a reason. So, I mean, I guess we got to hear from them if they make a coaching change to hear about that.
Brian Windhorst here on the Rich Eisen Show from the worldwide leader in sports. So who else might be on the hot seat right now across the NBA as we're heading into the final regular season weekend? Who else?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's certain guys where we're expecting changes. Like we're expecting Alvin Gentry, who's the interim coach, to be let go in Sacramento, and there to be a change there. But the juice that you're looking for is where are there coaches who may be a surprise change. So I think there are people who are watching the Utah Jazz very closely. They've had a disappointing season. If they have a disappointing playoffs, there's a possibility of a change there. It just depends. It'll depend on how the season plays out. And I think Doc Rivers is under a measure of pressure with the 76ers. Daryl Morey, even though they have a good working relationship, Daryl Morey did not hire him. He is under pressure to deliver with James Harden. If they have an early out in the postseason, and frankly, they've been struggling in late game situations, which has been a Achilles heel for Doc in his career, I would watch those two situations.
Brian Windhorst here on the Rich Eisen Show. What about Zion? Are we going to see him? What's the scoop with him now that we know who's essentially in the play-in tournament out west? What do you think about that one?
We know that Zion wants to play, Rich, because a couple of weeks ago he wasn't happy with how fast he was being cleared, and he posts a video. And the next day he got cleared to do some more work. And then yesterday, for the second time in 3 years, his stepfather, who essentially is the lead voice in his decision making, gave his second interview in 3 years. And in the interview, in my view, the purpose was to tell people Zion wants to play. And so that was sort of round two in applying public pressure to the organization to play Zion. But this is a guy who, as far as I know, hasn't even had a full contact practice in almost a year. And, the idea that they are going to be able to take him through the ramp-up stages, if he was just out for a month and he'd been playing during the season, there's a little bit more of a path. But you're going to have to take him through numerous stages to make sure he's not going to re-injure that foot. So I'm not going to sit here and say 100% no, because I think the pressure is going to still come. But the play-in tournament is less than a week away. He's not playing in that. And I don't even know if the Pelicans are winning 2 games to get out of the play-in tournament, much less extending into the postseason. So I don't see it. But whether he plays or not is not as important as the actions being taken to apply pressure to the Pelicans. That speaks more to me than anything else.
So then what is it saying to you when it's speaking to you, Brian?
It says to me that Zion and the team are not on the same page about his recovery, despite the fact that he's had setback after setback after setback that has pretty much wrecked this season for him.
So then why does he want to play? What's the point?
Well, he wants to play because he thinks he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But he said the last time he talked to the media was in September, and he said, "I'll see you on opening night." That was 6 months ago. So what he thinks and what's reality seem to be two different things.
Brian Windhorst here on the program. What about Ben Simmons out for the play-in tournament? Nets win 2, they get in. And man, Nets versus whoever finishes up number 1, if that is in fact the way it would go, would be quite lit, as the kids say. What is the scoop with Ben Simmons right now?
Yeah, so the Nets just had probably their best day in weeks, because they woke up yesterday in 10th place. And they won on last night, and everybody else in the play-in tournament lost. And that changed their entire situation. So now they're in 8th, and if they win the next 2 games, they're going to be in 7th with full control of their destiny. And being in 7th changes everything. That gives them a chance to have a much cleaner path. And I'll tell you, the Miami Heat, I could see them sending trays of fruit and offering wonderful post-game spreads.
Yes.
and postseason vacations if they win that game Friday against the Cavs. Because if they win Friday against the Cavs, I think Miami's going to avoid them in the first round. So, having said all that, you asked me about Ben Simmons.
Yes.
Internally, the team is saying we can still bring him back. We can get him through a process and play him, and they believe that they would play him despite him never putting on a Nets uniform. They are saying we can bring him back in a playoff series. I think it would probably they'd have to go at least past the first round for that to be realistic, because like with Zion, he hadn't played in like 340 days. So he can't just say, okay, you're cleared to play. Let's head out. Let's do a stretching routine and get out on the court. They're going to have to put him through multiple contact practices so that they see how his back reacts. They can't risk it otherwise. It's not prudent, to do that. And the problem is the G League is done. He can't go there, and the team isn't going to be practicing that much. So I'm not ruling it out, but I think it's probably going to take the Nets to get on to pull at least one quote-unquote upset to get deeper in to give him the time to do it.
What about Curry's ankle, Steph Curry's ankle, in time for the playoffs?
Yeah.
What are you hearing about there, Brian?
So to me, the West Conference playoffs is Ja's knee and Curry's ankle. Mm-hmm. And both Memphis and Golden State are saying the same thing. Don't worry about all these inactives. Don't worry that they're not practicing. Everything's going to be okay for the playoffs. Wink, wink. We're going to be fine. It's not my knee. It's not my ankle. Maybe that's true. Maybe Ja will come springing out of the tunnel for the opening round of the playoffs. Maybe Steph will be running around like everything is fine, by the second round, which is when they're going to really need him. But if I said I wasn't worried, I wouldn't be telling you the truth. I think those two factors are huge, and another reason why, if you're the Suns, you're feeling okay about your situation, especially if you can avoid injury yourself.
Yeah, I mean, they're sitting there atop the West and just kind of like getting ready for the big crucible starting in a couple weeks for them. Before I let you go, Brian Windhorst, your thoughts on the MVP conversation going into the final weekend? What do you think?
Yeah. I've got Embiid right now on my top line. I recognize, Jokic, I voted for him last year, and if he wins again, it'll be honorable. At ESPN, we did a straw poll that published last week, Tim Bontemps from our staff, where he actually polled the voters. And it's important to know, Rich, there's only 100 voters. It's kind of like the Senate. So if you convince 10 people to switch their vote, it's not like a Heisman. The Heisman, there's something like, there's over 1,000 Heisman voters. It's not like that. So it's very hard to just say, oh, yeah, so-and-so is going to win. A year ago, Bontemps did this poll 2 weeks before the end of the season and declared it over. He said, Jokic has got it. No one's catching him. The poll showed that Jokic was in the lead, 62 first-place votes to, I believe, 19 for Embiid as second, and Giannis was a distant third. And that poll, to me, is solid gold. You know who else thinks so? Las Vegas, because the odds, Jokic went into less than even money after that came out. So Jokic is showing no signs of slowing down. He keeps putting up great games. I am super impressed with Embiid at both ends of the court, and have had him in as my MVP for 2-3 months now, and I'm leaning towards going that way.
And Jokic is not going to get any. The cavalry's not coming in the playoffs for the Nuggets. You don't think from the injury?
So
what do you think?
I mean, I'll tell you one thing: Murray and Porter are doing more than Simmons and Zion are. So, but Michael Porter Jr. had a setback in his recovery. The Nuggets haven't exactly explained what it is, but he was closer than Murray, and then he had a setback. So I suppose, again, if they get far in the playoffs, it's more likely, but right now neither are close.
Brian, you're the man. I just, again, love our chats. You make me smarter. You get me excited about, the association. And I, although Laker fans hearing what you have to say probably are crying in their soup a little bit more today.
They know. Yeah. They already know.
Take care, Brian. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, guys.
That's Brian Windhorst, senior NBA writer. Brian Windhorst in the Hoop Collective podcast and the old ESPN Pod Center at Windhorst ESPN on Twitter. I follow him. You should too. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.